and welcome to the first episode of the 206 Curve podcast. I am your host, Carson Fatland, along with my co-host, Avery Kindred. A little bit about us. We've been friends for a half decade. We met through a mutual who's more of a casual sports fan. But we've been friends for about a half decade. We went to college at Washington State together, and we decided, you know what, we love baseball so much, why not make it a podcast? So obviously, we're Mariner fans, but we will sprinkle in some MLB news every now and then, and maybe this will transition to just be a baseball podcast. But through all the people that I've met, there's no one that I'd rather host a podcast with or share hosting duties with than Avery Kindred. So, Avery, it's been a pleasure, and I'm excited for this podcast.
Wow, that's so sweet. Thank you. I couldn't imagine anyone else co-hosting with either. I mean, that casual friend or that friend that is a casual, he's been trying to get into baseball for a couple years now, but he hasn't even been putting in any effort. He hounds me every offseason. Hey, I'm going to try and get into baseball this year. I want to learn all the players. And then opening day rolls around and he's just scrolling on his phone. He doesn't care. Clash of Clans season, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Baseball is an acquired taste. I think that a lot of people want to get into it, especially nowadays. Like, I feel like the late 2010s, there was really like an identity crisis with the fans. You know, the games were lasting too long and things like that. But with things like the pitch clock and the mound visits and everything like that, really speeding up the game, I think the game's starting to pick up a lot of popularity, which is great because like I didn't want to fall into obscurity with how big the NBA and the NFL are getting. Yeah, but I mean, he just needs to buckle down and just maybe watch 9 innings of a game without looking at his phone. Who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah,
but
low key with these rule changes, we like to clown on Rob Manfred and deservedly so, but I think some of these rule changes are actually kind of good. But don't tell him I said that.
which rule changes do you like and do you not like? What are you seeing? What the trends, the ABS obviously in spring training? What rule changes have you liked over the past couple of years, and what in the future or changes that have had, what do you like and dislike?
Oh, I'm super excited about the golden at bat.
I
I'm
hate
kidding.
that.
I'm
I
kidding. That's
hate
the
it.
worst thing I've ever heard.
It's
Um,
terrible.
Actually, kind of all of them I like. I like the shift. I like the extra innings rule for the regular season. The relief needing to pitch at least three batters or end the inning. I thought I was gonna hate that. I actually love it. And the DH in the NL it's all great. I don't understand why Rob Manfred seems to be kind of good at this part of the job and then horrible at literally everything else.
Yeah, that's true. I wish one rule that they changed that I didn't, typically like is that now the All-Star game, whoever wins, you can't have home field advantage for the World Series. I feel like that rule was awesome. It gave the All-Star game. I mean, the MLB already has the best All-Star game of all of sports. It's just the way it's laid out. I mean, it's a shit show in the NBA and the NFL, but. I mean, I thought that was kind of an added bonus. I thought that was cool. I thought that gave players, something to play for. They think they're going to make the World Series. But yeah, I mean, golden at bat for sure. I hope that never happens. I've always been a fan of the extra innings runner. But yeah, I mean, I think that baseball is appealing to a lot more younger fan base. A lot of people are following prospects more, which has always been something that I've enjoyed. I love following prospects from, all the way to Everett, from Everett to Seattle. So I think that's really really cool. And now we get to shift toward our team in specific and why people should root for the Mariners. If you're watching this podcast, obviously you're either a Mariner fan or just a baseball fan in general, or you're just supporting us. So I just want to say thank you before we get into it. But the Mariners off season, I mean, there's a lot to talk about and there's not a lot to talk about. So where do you want to start?
I guess we'll start with just some of the moves that they made, the plethora of moves that they've made. I've written down, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, eight names that they've added. Only four of them have the potential to really make an appearance on opening day. Probably only two or three of them will. And that is not good. Across the whole 26-man roster, not good. Uh, for who they've added, written down Master Brony, Shenton, Solano, Polanco, and Tellez. I highlighted Shenton, Solano, and Polanco. Combined $10.5 million of added payroll there. Um, maybe 11. Not
That's not
great.
good.
Not great.
Not great. Not great at all.
Um,
Also, the Mariners do occasionally make, their waiver wire additions like Will Klein and Casey Legamina, as well as Shintaro Fujinami. But he was a non-roster invitee. But yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, really underwhelming free agency class there, and no trades really. I mean, I don't even think was there a trade?
Shenton. Shenton.
Yeah, Shenton was a trade. Was he a player to be named later? Cash? I mean, what? Or I guess we
Um,
reacquired Blake Hunt as well. So,
yeah, he could potentially see some reps as the backup catcher, which I'm super pumped about. But I don't want to get into Shenton too much right now because I think we might be talking about it a little bit later.
okay, okay. Yeah, but I think when you're taking a look at that in regards to how this impacts our team right now and just the way that our team was at the end of the year. You fire Scott Service with about 40 games to go. Kind of the weirdest time to fire a manager and then hire a permanent one. I mean, when I heard that Dan Wilson was going to be our permanent manager, I kind of shook my head a little bit like, what is going on? But I think that that was a home run hire by the Mariners. It was a really swift internal hire. The firing of Scott Service, it was long overdue in my opinion. It wasn't played out that well, and obviously, yeah, with 40 games left in the season, it might have been a little too late. But you add Edgar, you add our new hitting coach and our new hitting staff. And without them, I mean, they went 21 and 13 to close the year, and we kind of ended on an uptick somehow. We did miss the playoffs by one game, but to be honest, during that
Shocking.
collapse, I didn't really think that we were deserving of a wild card bid anyway. So I think that missing the playoffs kind of put a bad taste in our mouth, and I think we went into the offseason with, okay, let's get better. Now, unfortunately, getting better in a sense of we were probably one of the only, MLB teams with a budget. I'd say there's probably seven MLB teams out there with a set budget. You got teams like the Dodgers, the Mets, who can spend money out the wazoo. But really, I mean, we were one of, maybe the Rockies, the Athletics, the Rays, us included, that we were given a number and we had to make ends meet with that. But the Mariners lineup really needed probably like two to three hitters in the heart of their order. They have a lot of guys that are, can get hot in spurts. Even Josh Rojas, who's now a White Sox, he had some spurts where, wow, maybe he can really fit in at that leadoff or second hitter in the lineup. And then you had guys where, there'd be a lot of regression. Mitch Garver, obviously a huge regression. JP Crawford, really just an up and down tenure as a Mariner. So how do you feel like with the lineup right now? Obviously, it's not sexy. There's not a lot of names in there in the middle of the order, but how do you feel? Is there any guys that you really think, okay, it's okay we didn't add because we have X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I'm actually kind of optimistic going into this season. With how bad the offense was last year, I feel like the law of averages has to come into play here and they'll just naturally get better. There's no way like a guy like Julio will be bad at the beginning of the year for a third straight season, fourth straight season.
Yeah,
Uh, and then I'm gonna sound like Jared Dipoto here in a second. Randy Rosarena. We're gonna get a full season of Randy Rosarena. We just
true.
brought him in. Um, so in yeah, I think and we're gonna get a full season of Victor Robles. So
Very true.
that's exactly what Dipoto likes to say with the off-season additions,
Yeah,
referring all the way back to the trade deadline last year, but
for sure.
or the waiver line with Victor Robles. But
Yeah, absolutely. That was just a free agency signing. So that in the middle of the year, I thought he was going to be a Mariner
we'll
for
just
like 2 weeks.
yeah, it turns out he was the best player. He was on pace for like a 7+ WAR season if he would have played that out over 162 games. Um, so even if he does like half of that for the whole season this year, it's a huge bonus to this lineup. And I remember doing some research a little while ago. The Mariners, by WRC Plus, here's a little question for you. Where do you think they ranked over the last month plus of the season last year in terms of the entire MLB?
Based on WRC Plus, I'd probably say, I mean, we were bottoming out in the heart of like us struggling. I think we were one of the last clubs, but I think when Dan Wilson took over, we had to be middle of the pack, probably 15th.
We were first.
First,
We were
since
the
Dan
best
Wilson took over?
offense. Not since he took over, but there was a point at the end of August. I remember checking, and through the end of the season, I believe it was WRC Plus. We were the number one team in the season over the last month of the season in terms of offense, which is mind bending. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But maybe that's a sign that hey, we didn't need to do too much in the off season. We could work with this budget and come out with a pretty decent lineup for the 2025 season.
No, I definitely agree with that. I come into every season very optimistic because I feel like as a baseball fan, you really have to. Obviously, there's so much negative stigma around, oh, the ownership. You got guys like Paul Sewald, Justin Turner out here, just trashing the way that we do business. And, I'm a players guy all through and through, but I also really do support the team and everything that they're doing. And if they're constrained by something, they have to work with the cards that they were dealt. Scott Service said that coming into last season. But I just feel like it is just so agonizing to know that I got three on my list right now where it just made too much sense for the Mariners to go out and get, especially just the way that you're looking at free agency contracts, especially with Scott Boras clients. They're getting shorter. No, well, they'll start off leveraging saying we want a 10-year deal. And these guys aren't even worth a 10-year deal. They go, okay, slow down. And then they play the waiting game, the waiting game, the waiting game. And then they sign these really short-term contracts with these opt-outs. And then all of a sudden they're ready to go. I feel like the Mariners could have done that as the market kind of dwindled. I mean, we were in a period where Juan Soto was a Met. And then we saw Roki Sasaki sign with the Dodgers. And then it just like stopped. There was plenty of time to even just get the ball rolling. And who knows what happened behind the scenes? Maybe there was some meetings, but the three guys that I have are Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, as much as I would have hated that, but I guess I would have gone to like it, or Anthony Santander. All of those guys signed 3 to 4 year deals for around $100 million, right? And it's very high cost. I totally understand, 30 million up front for a guy that might not be an all-star. I mean, Pete Alonso, high strikeout numbers, might not hit well at T-Mobile Park. Alex Bregman, he was an Astro, just might not be a good culture fit. But those were two needs in the corner infield that we needed. Anthony Santander. When I think of Anthony Santander, he signed for 4 years. Remind me, 4 years, probably 100 million. I think around that range.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the Nelson Cruz-esque signing. I mean, we brought in Nelson Cruz for 4 years, I believe, $62 million, and at that point, he was just in the heart of our order for the entirety of the contract. Sorry, 3.5 years. I think we ended up trading him, but he was in the heart of the order. He produced 30 home runs a season, 100 RBIs, right behind Robinson Cano. I just feel like the way baseball has been inflating, the owners are trying to, pinch some pennies and, they don't want to swing and miss on a $30 million a year deal. But these are the risks that you have to take. And I think, Mariners fans are begging, please go in on Pete. Please go in on Alex, because this is just one guy that you can slot right behind Julio and the stress can get off him for being the guy. But I mean, that's the way I viewed this free agency class.
Yeah, I would have loved to take some swings and just throw some money out there with the pitching staff that we have. But John Stanton, since he's taken over, hasn't. Like the biggest moves he's allowed were trades and extensions with Luis Castillo. And like that's it. Like we'll see what happens with Randy Rosarena, but that kind of seems to be the MO of just like adding new players now. It's just we're going to be trading during the season and we're not going to be spending money. Like the Nelson Cruz contracts, the Robinson Cano contracts, those were past ownerships. Like
Right.
it makes me sad. John Stanton seemed to give this front office about $15 million tops to work with. And considering a guy like Carlos Santana, who we all thought would be a decent fit to come back, he ended up getting 12 million. So and that would have been our entire budget. So it was pretty clear, like after that, like we weren't gonna add anyone of significance. And I'm kind of surprised that we were able to bring back Jorge Polanco for 7 million. You
Yeah,
know, so
what a mess. I mean, you start the offseason declining his option, you end the offseason basically picking it up at a higher price. I mean, I don't run a baseball front office, but they had to be kicking themselves thinking about that. But what was I gonna say? It was Oh, well, we're given 15 million. We're getting 12 to 15 million to work with. You have Luis Castillo on the books. 21 million for the next 3 years, right? You're getting calls about him. The Red Sox are pretty aggressive about trying to get pitching. I heard even the Twins were interested. I have no idea why. But you have about 60 million of future money right there, and you're thinking, man, is it time to go? The rumor was the Boston Red Sox offered Tristan Casas and Masataka Yoshida. Now, offsetting, you'd still net some money there to maybe go out and spend, but getting Tristan Casas would have solidified first base, and Masataka Yoshida would have been a left field DH candidate. Now, not saying those were amazing home run fits for the Mariners, but it could have freed up some money to go out and get a guy like Bregman or get a guy, or at least something else. I mean, I understand the rotation is our strong suit. I personally feel like we're due for some regression. We had an amazing season last year in all statistical categories, and I just feel like with pitching, there's going to be off years. There's going to be years where you're hurt. I mean, we led the majors. There was only we had seven starters last year, and the seventh starter was Jonathan Diaz for one bullpen game. So I mean, we're playing with fire, and we're about to get burned. I think with the regression, and that's fine. These guys are young. They're obviously financially controllable. But I just feel like we needed to pull the trigger and say our goodbyes to Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray-esque. I mean, if we were able to deal Robbie Ray for even
or
that
Mitch
return
Haniger.
for yeah, Mitch Haniger potentially. We got Mitch Haniger in that Robbie Ray, but then just keep flipping. I don't mind. I don't mind if players are here for a year. I want to see some fresh faces. And those fresh faces are likely going to come from, I guess, the farm and what we have, in that class. I don't in that free agency class. I don't think Miles Mastroboni, how do you even say that? I don't think that he really fits what we need. So I don't know where he'd even play.
He's
So
just, I guess, a depth guy. I don't, just a guy to take a shot on. I don't know. I feel like they did that with Shenton, and you should try to get more guys like Shenton and less guys like Mastroboni. But that's just me.
I mean, depth is depth. I think, and looking at it on paper is really depressing because you're like, man, look at this lineup. It's just not filling out in that middle of the order. You got Robles, Rosarena, Julio, and then Cal, and then that 5, 6, 7. It's like, oh my God, who's gonna step up and make the and hit there consistently throughout the year? And then you go 7, 8, 9, and it's like these guys are just guys we want to take a chance on. But I think once I saw the club report to camp, we've been able to see I think maybe a handful of spring training games as of the recording date. But I really think okay, you know what? I'm starting to like our depth. I'm starting to think okay, if one person goes down, somebody can step up and come in. Guys like Rowdy Tellez, Solano. I mean, Polanco, he's not healthy, right? So there's going to have to be somebody to step up, and that's kind of where our prospects play in. So I think we have a lot more depth than we accounted for on paper. But let's talk about some of the game changers that you think are going to impact at least the start of the season with our first segment, the Trident Trio.
Okay, so this Trident trio, we're gonna each pick a guy that we think is gonna be like dark horse for like team MVP at the end of the year. Not obviously Julio. We're gonna he's separate. Guys that are not Julio, and then will be that, and then a guy that we want to look out for. Like this guy is kind of a dark horse. Like he can really kind of be a big impact player. And then our last guy will be someone that doesn't really get a whole lot of shine, but we just personally love. We're like, you know what, this guy, he's just gonna do it this year. So to go back to like my team MVP for this season, it's gonna be Victor Robles. That guy, I didn't we all knew that he could do it. Like he's been a highly rated prospect for a long time. He just was never able to really get a whole lot done at the MLB level. The Nationals finally were done with him, thankfully, and for whatever reason, he was like, you know what, Seattle, that's where I can hit. So
True.
if he can if he can hit in front of Julio, just get on base. I'm gonna have you guess here. So he had 262 plate appearances with us last season over 77 games. What do you think his on base percentage was, and how many stolen bases did he have?
Stolen bases, I'd say something in the 20s, maybe 25. On base percentage. Gotta get okay, give me the first number. Give me just the first one. So I'm not way
It's a
off.
three.
Okay, a three. We'll go 385.
Wow, that was a fantastic guess. I thought you were gonna lowball him. He had a 393 on base
Wow.
in 77 games with us, with 30 stolen bases.
Dang.
30 stolen bases and 262 plate appearances. I don't even understand. That's a full season is like in that 600 range if you
Right.
play it basically every day. So so he was on pace for over 60 bags last year. Like one of the
That's nuts.
premier stolen base guys in the league. I didn't realize that what was happening. So if he's going to be your leadoff hitter and if he can do like I said earlier, half of what he did last year with us, he's going to be just an electric factory hitting in
For
front of
sure.
Julio. It's going to make his job a heck of a lot easier.
For sure.
So so yeah, yeah, he's not like the best at defense. He's been regressing in that
Yes.
aspect
He's
of his
had some
game,
comedic moments out there.
but like he was best last year in right field, and that's where he's going to be playing this year,
Mhm.
basically full time. So I'm
For
not
sure.
too worried about that.
Yeah, and
What about you?
I think too, like he can step into center field too, you know, when Julio needs a break. Maybe Julio DHs for a couple games or, you know, whatever. But I think that, you know, he's a center fielder by trade. I mean, or well, right field by trade, center field by nature. So I think, you know, the arm might be a little weak for a right fielder, but you know, when you have Randy in left, you really got to play, you know, to your strengths there. And maybe he'll develop as a better right fielder. But I mean, he's fast, he can get to the corner. And, you know, I really think that you know, I'm done with the JP Crawford leadoff experience. Even though he had a great year in 2023, I think Victor Robles is the perfect leadoff hitter. He gets on base. He shows a lot of discipline. He walks, you know, and he gets those little slap hits that you just love, you know, as a baseball savant. But yeah, I'm hyped for Robles. I think that he's a good story. I think we got him for incredibly cheap. He's a great clubhouse guy. Him, Julio, and Randy really seem to mesh well, and I'm excited to see a full season of that. For me, I'm going to shift to the other side of the outfield. I think Randy Rosarina is going to be my dark horse team MVP. We obviously bought really low on him at the trade deadline. He had a down year offensively. He was, you know, almost hitting, you know, at the Mendoza line. And you know, the new ballpark, it might be a little tough for him to hit. It's not the Trop. You know, and a lot of hitters like his profile, you know, I think of Teoscar Hernandez and things like that. So he might struggle. There might not be a lot of homers or, you know, his homer, you know, home homer. I don't know if I could say that five times fast, but his homers at home will probably be down a little bit, but man, he can crush the baseball. He looks at, you know, at his every at bat, he just looks and he's just so smug and he just wants to kill the baseball. And I just think that's what we need right behind Julio is a guy, or actually, I guess in this situation, be right in front of him because you have Cal. But a guy right in front of Julio, you know, Victor gets on base. You know, Randy works a walk or Randy hits a double. All of a sudden, it's already 1-0 before Julio gets up. But I just think that he's a good vibes guy. I honestly think when you're traded halfway to the season, especially from a team that you went to the World Series with and you grew up with, you know, you're a homegrown player, kind of. But I think it was tough for him to leave Tampa Bay. I think it was a big change of scenery, and we were trying, okay, we got to make a playoff run. And now, if we were like, you know, Artery in the driver's seat, and we maybe acquired him, it might have been an easier transition. But I'm glad we're running it back with him this year. There was some rumors that we might flip him. I was praying to God that we did not. And I just really think that he's going to be a guy offensively where we're going to look and say, wow, we're going to be able to lean on him when Julio and Cal are having those kind of down series offensively. So
Four straight 2020 seasons for Rosarena.
that's nuts.
Yeah. And talk about vibes guy. We're not a anti JP Crawford pod, but
Right. No, we're
I
not.
think I think Arozarena is who Mariner fans want JP to be,
I
or
agree.
think he is. Um, when JP's rocking like he was in 2023, then yeah. But I, I don't know. I don't. This isn't a episode about hating on JP yet, but I had to throw that in there.
You're right. No, good note. I mean, as far as the 26 man, there's not really any people that I'm like, why are you even here? I think that everybody really contributes equally, and I think that JP is a good leader for the team. He's been here. He's one of the most longest tenured Mariners at this point with the way everything's getting flipped around. But I think his defense is phenomenal. He's going to be a good beacon. And I just really think that, hitting ninth is not really an insult in the MLB because I think that, his plate discipline and his ability to, kind of chop hits into the outfield and just get on base. I mean, he was really working. We've seen him progress from, when we were playing him in 2021 to slowly getting there to where that plate discipline has really paid dividends. And I think, but bat him ninth, he'll flip the lineup and all of a sudden he's on base and Victor's up and Randy's up. So it's not an insult. I'm just saying that Victor Robles is a better option at leadoff hitter than JP. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion. Great players.
JP, perfect 9-hole hitter. We'll leave it at that. Leave it at that, I think.
All right. Who's your next? Who you got?
So my dark horse guy, we're just gonna stick with this outfield theme. He's our fourth outfielder, Luke Raley.
Okay.
I'm in love with this guy. I think more Mariner fans should be in love with this guy. I just have one note here. It's just pure baseball player. Like, if I think of a baseball player, I think of him. It's just max effort, and he does literally everything he can do to help his team. Like, he's got all the power in the world, but he dropped so many bunts last year out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
it typically worked out. I don't understand. I'm a anti-bunter, but like he
He's
seemed to
got
do a pretty good
sneaky
job.
speed. He's got sneaky
He's
speed.
fast. He's in
Yeah.
like the 90th percentile in sprint speed this year or last year. Like he's fast for a big guy.
Yeah.
Um, but like guys like JP, Julio, and Cal, they like to us fans, they might seem to be like the faces of the team, the vocal leaders and stuff like that. But Luke is like the embodiment of like a leader in terms of like what you want in the clubhouse and like a guy that you want to look to set an example. Like
For sure.
if I had a roster of 26 Luke Raley's, I think we win the World Series. Like
For sure.
he's just an amazing guy. Um,
I mean, I
he
think
can
that he'll
play.
work in some time at first. I think that he might be the first baseman
I hope
platooning
so.
potentially against righties, but or wait, would it be lefties?
Yeah, I looked at I looked at his splits last year because I wanted him to be the everyday first baseman and
Yeah,
just get 600 at bats, but he should just be a platoon guy.
right,
He's the strong side of the platoon. He'll
right,
be platooning probably with Donovan Solano, and combined, they'll probably be better than what Justin Turner was for us.
right,
And anything or Ty France or anything we've had at first base for a long time. So I'm
for
pretty
sure,
excited about that. Luke
absolutely,
Raley, I just need him on the field. He's let's see. He's outrageously fast, like I already mentioned. He's gonna he's gonna lead the league. He's gonna lead first baseman in stolen bases.
yeah, for
There's
sure,
no way he's
first
not.
baseman at least, yes, without a doubt,
Uh, but he's got a lot of pot. Like he's had 41 home runs and a 476 slugging over his last two seasons. So like he's
that's
that's that's what we want. That's what we've been begging for first base for a long time.
for sure,
So yeah, like I said, he's a strong side platoon guy. He's going to be on the field a lot. He can play everywhere. He's going to give the outfield guys a day off or a day to DH. He's gonna play first base. He'll DH himself. Like he's gonna find his way in the lineup no matter what. Like he's
for
just pure
sure.
baseball.
For sure. And I'm not against platoons. I actually think it's kind of like a strategic point. I just wish that our whole infield outside of shortstop wasn't a platoon situation. But I mean, that's what we're just going to have to roll with.
Mhm.
My guy that I'm thinking, hey, take a look at him has to be Gregory Santos coming out of the pen because I mean, going into last season, we acquired Gregory Santos in February. About a year ago, we acquired him from the White Sox. And then we had Matt Brash going, and Matt Brash was kind of hurt. He had that sunken arm. We didn't know if it was Tommy John, and we didn't know if Santos was going to be healthy. I mean, he did play a little bit in spring training, threw some bullpens. And I thought to myself, man, before I knew that like Colin Schneider was going to step up and be a good guy, I was like, man, imagine a back half of the game where you just got dominated by Logan or Luis or George or Bryce or Brian, you know, the five for 6 innings, and then all of a sudden you have to turn to Gregory Santos, 100 miles an hour, Matt Brash, devastating stuff, and then Andres Munoz to close it out. I thought that was a 1, 2, 3 out of the bullpen. Unfortunately, we only got 2 weeks of the Gregory Santos experience last year, and Matt Brash needed Tommy John. And a lot of people are probably thinking, hey, Matt Brash, you know, because we've already seen what he can do. So I'm very excited. And that's not, he doesn't fall into the lookout category for me because we know what he's capable of. I think Gregory Santos is going to really provide a good back end of the bullpen because, you know, we use Andres so much. We'll end up using Matt Brash. We're going to end up using Colin Schneider out of the pen. It might turn into, you know, sometimes when you're in those long stretches of the season where you're playing 14 games in 17 days, it might be a little closer by committee. You know, you might have to touch and feel. You might have used Andres 3 days in a row and you can't. So you got to turn to Gregory Santos. His stuff is electric. He looks healthy. I saw a video of him throwing a 3 minute bullpen, and I see Jerry in the shorts, like, you know, hyping him up in the back. Like he's like, yes, finally, I need a little return on my investment here. Not that, you know, the White Sox have turned Zach DeLoach, who was recently DFA'd, and Prelander Baroa into really anything. But, you know, I really think that Gregory Santos is going to come in and really add a much needed boost to the bullpen.
Yeah, only 25. Like he should be here for a
Controllable.
little while.
2 more years of
They're
control after this. So, I mean, you tell me. I mean, I
happy
think
about
that's
that.
going to be a good. It's going to be a good contract. So,
Hmm. Yeah, no notes there. That was good stuff. My last guy, the guy that I love, maybe maybe more than freaking Luke Raley, uh, Austin Shenton. I've been talking about this guy for years. Ever since we traded him, I've been upset and wanting to trade for him back, and I can't believe we did. Um, a little side note, I almost went with Harry Ford in this spot. Uh, I know your
lame.
opinions of him. We could talk about that another time.
Right.
But Austin Shenton ultimately won this spot. God, he has every opportunity to make just an immediate impact. Well, gosh, I love him. I've been infatuated.
He's an
He's
Austin
27
Shinton
now.
Glazer, folks.
I am. If I could, man, if I had more money, I would buy his jersey. Um, he's just he's 27, so he's not like this young prospect anymore. He never was like this top prospect, but he all he's done is like rake in the minors. Like he's never had a season in the minors where he's been a below average hitter. It's always above average. He had 1 year where he had a 100 WRC plus in like 2022 or something, 2023. But other than that, it's been like in the 120s, 140s, stuff like that.
And
It's just
he had
he
some
just hits.
time. He had some time in the majors last season with the Rays, right? A handful of games,
Yeah, it
right?
was like 50 games if that. Like he
50.
doesn't really have or maybe 50 plate appearances. He just I don't know why. Maybe he was just blocked. I mean, they were bad last year. I don't know why he did like their offense was bad. I don't know why he didn't play.
Right.
Um, but let's see. Let's go back to my notes here. He is the quintessential three true outcome guy. Like he will strike out a lot, but he hits home runs and he walks a ton. Um,
A lot of strikeouts, but a lot
he
of walks, so it's kind of even. It cancels out.
that's exactly what I wrote. It cancels out. I mean, you don't. I mean, I wouldn't be too thrilled if he came up in a 2 out situation with runners in scoring position, but other than that, like he's gonna be on base and he's gonna be
Right.
hitting the ball hard.
Right.
I just feel like he's poised to break out. He's been just sitting there with 50 career plate appearances in the MLB, knowing that he can hit. He knows that
Right.
he can hit at the major league level,
For
and
sure.
he was successful in those 50 plate appearances too. It's not like he was bad. Like
Right.
he just does nothing but hit the ball. So, I mean, I I don't know where he's gonna play. I think I would like to see him just DH on the strong side of the platoon with Mitch Garver on the other side. Um, I, I I don't want Mitch Haniger to get any of those at bats. I want it to be Mitch Garver and Austin Shenton and just call it a day. Um, I don't really have anything too in depth here about Austin Shenton, because
Right.
he doesn't have a lot of like baseball savant stuff because he hasn't played at the major league level. But
Right. But this segment's all about potential. I mean, if we just, he's when you see some guys you think, okay, he's got it. And you can't really describe it. There's no statistics to really back it up, but it's just old school baseball, he's got it. So I
yes,
I I agree with you. I think Shenton could be a key player that we can somehow fit in. Maybe if he starts hitting a little bit better into spring, maybe he can make the case to play second base. I think a lot of people are buying for second base. And my last one, and it's really tough for me not to say Ryan Bliss, and really tough for me to not say Tyler Locklear. But I pounded the Tyler Locklear train all throughout last season trying to get rid of Ty France, and he got a shot, and he just couldn't quite get it. I mean, he just couldn't get a lot of at bats, and so I hope the best for Tyler Locklear. I really think they should try to, move him out to maybe third, and then do a first and third situation because he played third in Arkansas pretty well. But my lookout of the season is going to be generic, but my lookout is Ben Williamson. I mean, a lot of people, even John Moresi,
wow,
has even talked about Ben Williamson. He'd be the first William and Mary alumni in the bigs since 2013.
just
Crazy
riding
little
this hype
fact there.
train.
Yeah, crazy. But he's been on everybody's radar. Second round pick in 2023, so it's like, kind of recent here, but he is 24 years old. He played like maybe a week in Modesto. He got kind of hurt, and then the next season rolls around and he starts off in Everett, and then all of a sudden within 3 weeks he's in Arkansas. And I mean, I don't know, if people in this that listen to the pod kind of followed the natural progression of prospects, but even guys like Michael Arroyo and Lazardo Montes, and even Harry Ford, Cole Young, Cole Emerson, they're slowly moving because they're a little bit younger, right? They need a lot more time to develop and play against guys that they can just crush the ball and really gain that confidence. Ben Williamson's like been here, done that, played a couple years of college. His offensive stuff does not really fly off the sheets at all. I mean, I know there's some people on Mariners Twitter that are like, we cannot even give Ben Williamson a shot. And that just kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit because it's like he's a plus defender. He's been making crazy great plays in Arkansas all last year when they won the Texas League. Even early in the spring, he's turning double plays. He's giving me like Kyle Seager-esque like defensive ability. And I mean, I
Wow.
know that's kind of a bold claim, but I think that his defense alone kind of speaks for itself. And then it's like he's going to play third base, so he's going to be good defensively, and we need that. We don't need him to hit cleanup in the order. Like let's try him out, seventh, eighth, ninth. Why don't we just try put him in the lineup, see what we got? Because it's clear to me that Jorge Polanco is not healthy. And it's going to take a couple more games for me to think, okay, he's in game shape, but he might have to start the year on the bench or even the IL because he is just, I mean, he's looking really sluggish. He's really behind in the lineup's progression in spring training. So, I think, he's 24 years old, right? Ben Williamson. And it's like, if you're going to give him a shot, might as well just try it for the first 2 weeks. If you're going to have the mentality of, Dan Wilson wants to implement the mentality of every game matters from 1 to 162, which I completely agree with. But, we can't be hobbling out Jorge Polanco there to start opening day. So my prediction or my ask is that I want the starting third baseman against the Athletics to be Ben Williamson, and I want him to be hitting eighth. I want him to be there because I
Wow.
think he would be. I think he'd be a great. I think he'd be a great fit. And if you start him in Tacoma, that's fine. But it's the PCL, Pacific Coast League, man. It's gonna inflate stats. Austin Shenton and Ben Williamson will crush the PCL, and we're gonna think, oh my God, we need to get them up right now. And then it's like they're not living up to the hype. It's just what happens with like
Mm.
Tyler Locklear, Evan White. It's like it just happened. It's the PCL, man. I couldn't tell you. It's voodoo. So
I was gonna ask, but you answered it already when what your timeline was for Ben Williamson. But I guess you're asking for opening day starter.
I mean, I just don't. I want to say it because I'm like, you put him in Tacoma for 2 weeks and then call him up. It's like, what are you doing? Like, Ben Williamson isn't the kind of guy where you want to manipulate his service time really because he's already 24. Like, there's just really no use into keeping him into May if you plan to use him. Like for Cole Young, who's had kind of a slow start to the spring. He's obviously one of our top prospects. He might fill in at second base pretty well, but you're going to want to wait until May 1st because then you get another free year out of him. But and it's crazy, but that's just the way the baseball business is with these prospects. But Ben Williamson is a guy where I'm like, you're not a top prospect. You're ranked 15th out of our 30th, and but you'd make an impact. You seriously would. So that's just what I think. I mean, I'm fine with Polanco. This is not a Polanco hate cast, but I'm just like he's not
What about
healthy.
what about Dylan Moore? Is it a Dylan Moore hate podcast?
It's not a Dylan Moore hate podcast. He's going to get a clean slate, especially
Sounds like
because,
it. You just skipped right over him.
well,
It goes
I
Jorge
think
Polanco, Ben Williamson.
well, it's clear that Jerry said that Jorge's playing third, and they said, well, why not Dylan Moore? And he said, we think that Dylan Moore's best position is second base, which is correct. I mean, it is correct. He cannot play shortstop. He cannot play third base or left field because of his arm. He's got no range, right? But he's a great, quick, get to it defensive second baseman. That's perfect, right? And if he's going to strong side platoon, he's going to be hitting, he hits lefties well. So how often do you really see lefties? So you really got to think, okay, who's going to be, the righty platoon in that? It could be Cole Young, it could be Ryan Bliss, but we're going to talk about position battles in a different episode. We're going to wrap up this episode as kind of our introductory one. But Avery, any final thoughts that you want to put out there before we say goodbye?
Just that I'm really excited to go through a season where I can share my thoughts of the ups and downs, a lot of downs. I can't wait to let all these curve riders, that's what I'm going to call these fans of this
Curve
pod,
riders,
the curve riders,
ride the
make
curve.
sure, yeah, that curve's going down, but maybe it's not. Maybe we're gonna go up. I can't wait to do like the season preview or prediction pod. That'll come probably the week of opening day or the week before.
Mhm.
Um, because I am excited, even though this episode started on like the down note with like how bad this offseason was. I'm like I do every year, I'm talking myself into this team. So I can't wait to get disappointed.
I am ready to get hurt again. No, I totally agree with you. I'm looking forward to our next episode. You should be on the lookout. We're releasing this episode probably Saturday or Sunday. So the next week, we're going to go into kind of looking into some late spring training games where, the first half of spring training, you're really just throwing everyone out there. Now there's going to be cuts. Now there's going to be, the guys in the lineup hitting 3, 4 times a game. So we're going to go into, spring training update, kind of middle of spring training. We're going to go over all the position battles, a lot of the guys we just talked about. Maybe take a look at our prospects, and then we're gonna our third episode will be a recap of what all of our divisional opponents did and our projections, and it will be a longer pod for sure because it's like the day before Christmas and opening day. So. All right. Well, if that's it, I appreciate everyone who listened. Be on the lookout. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the206curve. And yeah, give us a follow individually at Dwyer Fatland at what is it, Kindred11?
A underscore
A
Kindred 11.
underscore, yes, very old
Big
school.
Twitter presence.
Big Twitter presence. Go ahead
X.
and follow
X.
us on Twitter. Make sure to, if you're having this on Spotify, add it to your shows. And obviously, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But all right, see you guys later.